and welcome to the second episode of Star Guitar. My guest this week is Jessica Staveley-Taylor of the Staves. She formed the band with her two sisters, Emily and Camilla, in 2009, and they signed to Atlantic Records not long after. They released their debut album, Dead and Born and Grown, in 2012, and the follow-up, If I Was, which was recorded at Justin Vernon's April-based studio in Wisconsin in 2015. They released The Way Is Red, a collaboration with New York chamber music ensemble yMusic, in 2017. And as Jess tells me in the interview, they're currently working on their next album, which they hope to have finished by the end of the year. I've been a big fan of the Staves since I first heard their Mexico EP. I think it's fair to say that the first thing you notice when listening to their music is probably not the guitar playing, but their amazing harmonies. But if you listen a bit closer, there's some really effective guitar in there, which perfectly complements the voices and, completes the picture. With the second album, Jess switched to electric guitar and I think started having a bit more fun with it, which is something that we talk about a lot in the interview as well. So settle in, and here we go.
Hello, this is Star Guitar and I am Jessica Staveley-Taylor.
So we'll go right back to the beginning. What was the first memory that you have of the guitar?
The first memory I have of guitar is my dad's guitars. He had a few lying around the house that he would play a lot, and I remember sort of just hitting them and enjoying the sound that came out of them. As a very young kid, I'd hit the strings. I guess early guitar tapping, but I didn't quite know that's what it was.
Did your dad enjoy you hitting them quite as much as you did?
I think he kept an eye on it. But I was always sneaking into the room where he'd keep them, and I just enjoyed literally just strumming the strings and in a very childlike way, and just figuring out that made a noise and thinking that was exciting. And I loved watching him play, and I loved watching how his fingers moved and the sound coming out of it. And he had mostly nylon. He had a couple of nylon string guitars and then a steel string guitar. So it was the nylon ones that I used to bash around. And that's my first memory.
Was he good? A good player?
Yeah. And still is, may I add. He's really good. I mean, he's definitely inspired. All the stuff he played when we were kids was, I suppose, the kind of 60s, 70s singer-songwriter kind of stuff. Also Bob Dylan and Cat Stevens and things like that. So I always sort of think of him with that kind of guitar playing. And that's kind of where I started as well. And he taught me to play guitar. Okay. And what age are we talking then when you went from hitting the guitar to trying to play it? How old was I? I'm just remembering how I actually hit it. I remember very well. You go like that, and I put it flat on your lap and go... tap out rhythms. I mean, this is in an open tune, so this actually sounds
that sounds good. Yeah.
But doing it in a normal tuning, it sounds more experimental.
Yeah.
But I think he taught me and Millie, who's my younger sister, to play on holiday. I think we were on holiday in Anglesey, and I think it rained a lot.
Want to do that?
Yeah. And he'd brought the guitar along, and we were sat inside, and he taught us how to play. What was it? I think it was something like Karma Chameleon. Like, he taught us to do the A minor and E minor and the nice easy chords.
Yeah.
And I think it was Karma Chameleon that was one that incorporated those ones. Or was it Living on a Prayer? Well, I think he had a guitar songbook thing with him. And I was probably about 14, 15.
So relatively, not late, but like...
Quite late. Yeah. Never had lessons or anything like that.
Were you singing by this point then?
Yeah, I'd sung from day one, as cliched as it is, definitely.
And
I've been singing from...
You and your sisters obviously sing together a lot. But was that something that happened when you were kids as well? Would you sing together?
Yeah. All the time. We've been going through the attic in the family home and found so many recordings that my dad used to put a microphone up, much like you would do if you were doing a podcast. He'd put a little ambient mic in the room that would go into a tape cassette recorder thing and would record us kind of hanging out, sort of like a fly on the wall thing. And I'm so glad he did it, because it's so cool to listen back to it and to hear these tiny high-pitched voices. And we were all singing nursery rhymes along with him, and I guess harmonies came in at some point in the mix. I'm not quite sure when or how, but him and my mum would sing together in harmony, and he'd always come home from work in his suit, sit down, pick up the guitar and sing. And I think that was his way of shaking off the working day and being himself again after sort of pretending to be a grown up, working and getting on the train and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we were always singing, and we found some tapes of us. We must have been about 7, and we were singing in harmony then.
When did the two things come together then?
Well, I wrote a song called Gypsy when I was a kid, which was the tapping thing.
Okay.
And the lyric very much was, come on and gypsy. Like gypsy was a verb, like come on and gypsy. Like I think it sort of meant like come on and dance. So I remember singing and playing then. Don't know what it meant, but I sort of was feeling it. It was quite a bluesy song when I was very young. But I think when I first started playing guitar, I couldn't sing at the same time because I was too, like the tongue poking out in concentration.
Wait, and then the next chord comes in.
Yeah, and sort of being in pain for a while. So I can't quite remember when I managed to kind of nail the two. But we found, again, going through the vaults, we found recordings from our first show that we ever did, which was in 2004. So 15 years ago, and I was playing guitar then. I think I was doing Landslide by Fleetwood Mac.
Where was the first show that you did?
It was in Watford. It was in the Horns pub.
So the story, as I know it, goes that you used to do sort of open mic nights, and that's how your surname Staveley-Taylor got shortened to the Staves, just writing on the chalkboard.
Yeah. So
that was it. That was the first gig.
So we did open mics at the Horns, and then they allowed us to do an actual gig, and we got our friends from Watford in to be the band. So we sat on stools like Westlife. And
key changes?
I don't think there were key changes in any of those songs.
So you didn't have to stand up then?
No standing up. No. But before that, we'd done some open mics, and I think I played a Dixie Chicks song, that's right, and a Fleetwood Mac song. On guitar. So I was about 16, 17 probably when that was all happening.
Considering you then went to Lipper in Liverpool when you were 18, is that about like university age, or is it later?
I was a bit late in the game. I bummed around in Watford after school and worked in bars and restaurants and wanted to do music but didn't quite know how to do it. And so I decided 2 years later to go to uni. So I think I was 20 in my first year.
Okay. But still quite, if you were 14 or 15 when your dad first showed you the E minor, 5 years later to be doing a university course in it's quite quick moving.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah.
A lot of people will start in primary school maybe, or, really little.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the course?
It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you come out of it with a degree in music, BA honours in music, so I like to feel that feels quite proper that I've got a degree in music. But it was a course that was more kind of popular music, and I think it was kind of like it's all about the individual and you deciding what it is you want to do sort of when you start school. So in my case, I knew that I wanted to write songs, sing them, play guitar, get a band together, get a record deal and be an artist in that way. Whereas other people wanted to be producers or be session players and stuff like that.
And playing guitar the whole time as well?
Yeah, I think I was quite shy when I started. I think the first year I sat back and didn't really do very much in terms of gigs. I did I went to school every day, did all the work that I needed to do, but I felt a bit unsure, and I was doing this stuff with my sisters back home, but I wanted to go off on my own and kind of go to uni. And it felt like, well, this feels like a good place to go to uni because I get to do music. And then I felt like without them, what do I do? And am I as good? And I don't know. And so it took me a while to find my feet. And then lo and behold, they ended up coming up quite a lot in my second and third year and joining in the fun. And then it felt like it was a sort of foregone conclusion really that we should be doing it as a trio. As a trio. I was trying to avoid saying threesome and my sisters in the same sentence.
That's not the best, is it?
As a trio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Owning guitars then. So what was the first guitar that you got?
So the first guitar, my dad took me to Denmark Street and we went to one of the shops, I can't remember which one it was, and we looked about and we got a Westfield acoustic. And it was a sort of dreadnought shaped guitar, so I suppose it was their kind of version of like a D28 or something. and I loved it. I played it all the time. I still have it. And he bought me a gig bag to go with it, which I bought today, which is actually covered in mould because I found it in my mum's loft.
It's a sign of a well-loved thing.
Yep. But I used it for years and years and years, and it's all torn. And then he bought me a Yamaha Pacifica.
Oh wow, okay, like a Strat copy, yeah.
And a little Marshall practice amp.
The tiny one that's like a pencil case, or the slightly bigger one?
The bigger one
Right.
that's got like one speaker in it, you know, the kind of,
yeah.
which I still have and still use to practice on at home because it sounds awesome, and it's got like a drive button that you can click, and it's just a really cool distortion sound rather than using a distortion pedal. It got to one point where I'd done some demos at home in my flat using that, and I think just maybe I did have my other like effects going through it, but the crunch came from that. And then we were recording in America, and the producer was like, "You should bring that amp out next time, man. You should fly it out." It's so small, you could take it on a plane. But I was like, I mean, is it that good? Is it that good? And also, we so could have just got one in America. It'd be cheaper to just buy one, probably. From the music store. So that was he got me my little setup, and so I was really into Simon and Garfunkel and that kind of finger picking style, and James Taylor. And electric guitar wise, I was really into Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Love Jeff Buckley, and was in love with Jeff Buckley as well, like a lot of people were, I think. And he got me the guitar, or my mum got me the guitar tab book for that. And
For Grace?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to play Grace. And you know, like the intro to that song, do 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 do. And then I was just like, yeah, no, it's not gonna work for me right now, man. So the electric ended up getting shelved a little bit, and sort of sat behind a sofa and didn't get used too much. And the acoustic was the one that I sort of made more sense, and it enabled me to write songs and sing with. So it felt like I always think of myself as an acoustic player, even though I do play electric.
Yeah. I suppose as well, if you're using it as an accompaniment tool, then electric guitar on its own is not always great with three voices. I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure though when I see you, and I've seen the three of you play shows that's just the three of you, and sometimes like it'll be just you playing a guitar. Does that feel like a lot of pressure that you're providing all the music?
No, I don't think it does. I think it feels actually the most natural.
Right.
Because that's how we started. And I think with our harmonies as well, we were talking about it recently. I think because we didn't have a band and we were just, you know, a sort of singer-songwriter, but three people, as opposed to three siblings, and one would play drums and one would play bass and one would play guitar, and become a family band in that way. We were more like an extended sort of singer-songwriter type person, or whatever you want to call it. So we'd use our harmonies often to create like the backing, because we didn't have anyone else to do it. So we'd kind of do BVs in that way that were maybe not the most obvious BVs, I think, to kind of compensate. And I think with guitar playing as well, I think I probably developed a way of filling out the space with the guitar playing in a way that you wouldn't if you knew that you had a bass player and a drummer to kind of occupy a lot of that space. I think in a way it feels the most natural, and because I've come from that background, and it felt more unnatural to have other people involved. It took a while to kind of feel confident and feel like it made sense. And you have to worry about things like keeping in time. Not that we played wildly out of time, but when you don't have a rhythm section, you can keep your own time.
Yeah.
Which can fluctuate a little bit, and that you can't really tell, and it feels good. And then you have to kind of learn to, oh right, I'm speeding up here, and learning to be in a band in a conventional way. I think I definitely was a late starter in that.
Have you performed much when you're not playing the guitar, the three of you?
No.
Does it ever feel a bit awkward because you haven't got something to hold?
Yes, it does. It does. There's songs where I play keys instead. But the guitar definitely has become a shield, and a really nice one. And it's my sisters often say, if they're not playing guitar, because they don't as much at shows, it's like, oh, I wish I just had something to like feel like I'm doing rather than just singing. You know, what do you do with your hands? And And also it's great if you've eaten a big meal before a show, you can pop a fly open and no one can see. You've got the guitar covering up. And it's like, is this top a bit short? And it's like, it doesn't matter.
Just get a bigger guitar.
Shove a big old guitar in front of it. No, it definitely feels like a comfort thing. I always feel the same way with having long hair. It's like something that slightly covers you a bit.
Okay.
And the thought of it being short suddenly would be like, whoa, I'm so exposed. Everyone can, what do you do? But having said that, I have sung a bunch of times with that guitar. But it feels more natural, I think, to have it now.
I was also interested in the difference in feeling between playing the electric guitar on stage and playing the acoustic guitar on stage. Because I know there were electric guitars on your first album, but the second album, I think, was the first time, when you were playing those songs, it was the first time I saw you play an electric.
Yeah.
I was shouting Judas at the back.
Yeah.
But I wondered, if there's a different feeling that you have. Is it, I don't know, do you immediately feel more aggressive or something if you're making that much more noise?
It's great. It's great playing electric, and I really love it. It feels more serious somehow.
Right.
Like, things are getting serious. She's getting on the electric. But I think it took me a while to feel comfortable in that role, because I hadn't come from that place. I hadn't sat in my room with my electric guitar, practicing Nirvana or Jimi Hendrix or whatever when I was a kid. And I think I felt a bit like, if you have an electric guitar, you need to start doing kind of fancy stuff on it to kind of justify it. And that's not really how I play guitar. So it took me a while, I think, to find my way. So I suppose initially probably fear was what I felt when I was playing it live, and then confidence, and then more fun, and being able to do fun distorted things and use effects and things like that. I think I play it like an acoustic, so I think in that way maybe I've got slightly my own kind of vibe with it, versus not coming from a blues kind of background or whatever with it.
Yeah.
Or a bar chord,
more
rocky
standing there shredding or anything. But,
can I pour some more coffee as we talk?
Yeah, of course, yeah. While you're pouring more coffee, I'm going to admire the guitar that you've been cradling on your knee.
Yeah, the axe that I bought.
Touring the axe, yeah. So, is it a D28?
It is. It's called an HD28.
Okay, so Martin HD28.
Which doesn't mean that it's in high definition, but it means it's a herringbone. What do you call it? Outline.
It's got the binding around the edges. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is, and that's the first guitar that I actually. Was it the first guitar I bought? It's the first expensive guitar that I bought. So I got my first guitars from my dad. Cheers, Dad. And then I bought a guitar in Nashville, which was quite cheap, but a really nice Gibson acoustic. And then that's the first kind of expensive guitar that I thought, well, I'm a professional now and I'm going to buy like a real professional
You need a real guitar. When, a D28 is... it's what McCartney did all the White Album and everything on, isn't it? So it's sort of...
The D28,
it's got
and it's John Martin, and it's it's Paul Simon, and it's all those guys, and it felt like a real, I think it felt like, right, take yourself seriously now.
How long ago was that then? Was it you were signed at this point?
Yeah. I think it was during the second album I got it. Yeah, so probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's an open D.
Open D.
At the moment.
You don't have to play anything. It's all right. Just sustain for days. That's kind of like a platonic ideal of an acoustic guitar in a way. I think if people drew an acoustic guitar, it would be a D28 that they had in mind when they were drawing it. Or if you think of any folk guitarist, it's I don't know. It's like the guitar that all of the acoustics are kind of measured by. I think it's amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful. You said you bought it in Nashville. The Gibson that you bought.
Yeah.
Where in Nashville did you buy it?
I bought it. I was staying with a girl who I'd met at uni.
Yeah.
Who lived out in Franklin, which is in like a suburb in Nashville, and she's called Alyssa. And I stayed with her, and her dad had a huge guitar collection, and that must have been about 2009. And it was just like, okay, I've got to buy a guitar while I'm here. and this is like the place to buy great guitars. I mean, every man and his dog has a great guitar and plays guitar, and so ended up going downtown to all the kind of main guitar shops and didn't find anything that was right, and things were really expensive, and then we went to a local one that was just kind of, I don't know, in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And I think it's called Franklin Guitars, and there was I think it's called a CL10 Gibson, and I think it's otherwise known as a songwriter, and I got a weird one that I think has been discontinued. It was made in the 90s. They still make that guitar, but it's slightly different now, and I think it was $700, which I thought was pretty great.
Yeah.
Or 750, and I still play that all the time and play it at shows.
With regard to writing then, when you're writing songs, do they always start off on the guitar? Is it always you that comes up with something? Well, particularly with your songs anyway. Or with your pianos. I've seen some photos of you on the piano recently. Are you writing on the piano a bit more?
I'm playing piano way more, actually. I've always played piano because there was a piano at our house, and so I would always, again, smash it from a young age and be excited that it made noises. And then Emily showed me to play piano, taught me to play when she was little, because she was getting lessons. But I found piano easier than guitar because it's so much more straightforward to get a sound out of it. It's just like you just press something. There's no technique. Of course there is if you become, really good, but a child can get a nice result out of it. Whereas with something like a violin or a trumpet or a guitar, it's like you have to spend ages on the technique before you can even get a good sound out of it.
I know people who played the violin for 5 years and it sounded like torture.
Yeah. So I think singing, playing a drum in any sort of way, and hitting keys on a piano, I think are the three that sort of everyone can do in some way.
Yeah.
Even if you can't, even if you're like, no, I can't play a note, you could. You literally could. I've always liked piano, and I've just kind of forgot about it for a while, for years, doing the Staves and doing guitar, and then I got more into it in the last few years. There was a song on the last record that closed the record that was a piano one, kind of quite sad song, called Sadness Don't Own Me. And then we did a record after that with yMusic, who are a New York kind of classical sextet. But we did some rehearsals for that where we were in the writing process, and some of the songs that I'd written on piano ended up being used. But I ended up not playing the record, and they sort of played my piano parts, if that makes sense. They arranged it amongst themselves. And for the new stuff that we're working on, there's been quite a lot of piano happening, yeah. But to answer your question, if I'm writing songs, and mostly with the Staves, whoever's singing the lead is usually who's written the song or the core of the song kind of thing. Nearly always they come from guitar. There's been a few that have come from kind of more of an a cappella stance, and again, like a few, and more so now, piano. But yeah, it's always the thing I'd sit down to write. Yeah.
Portability is quite something as well, isn't it?
Totally.
Just even one room to the next, let alone
exactly
wherever you want to go with it. Next album then, how, not to dig too deep into that, but how far along are you?
I don't quite know.
Okay.
I mean, we've written a ton, and we started it probably a year and a half ago.
Because the second one was 2010, wasn't it? No, God, not that long ago. 2014. 15.
Second one was 2015, and the third, which was the yMusic project, was in 2017.
I just totally forgot that it was 2019. That's why I said
Mate,
2010.
Welcome to my life. I literally...
Yeah, as if it was 9 years ago.
Time is a human construct, and nothing matters. It's fine.
Okay.
But I'm sure people will probably think that, though. You haven't done anything in about 10 years. Where have you been? I've been really busy. But yeah, so the last kind of official Staves one was in 2015. And then we did the other one in 2017. And so it's, I think beginning 2018, we sort of sat down to start doing the next one. And we'd been living in the States and touring over there during that kind of interim period. It's a funny thing. I'm very kind of aware now as time passes that to people you disappear when you're not promoting a record and playing loads of shows. You don't exist anymore. And like, what have you been doing? And it's like, well, just been touring in all the other places and doing other records. And so I suppose this is me letting you know that I haven't been sitting on my arse.
I believe you.
But it has taken a while. Yeah, it's taken a while. And we took a break from it for the last few months and just all needed some time out. But we're kind of cracking on with it now. And so I'm hoping to have it out. I'm going to say next year, but I'm not going to say when. Because whatever I say, it won't happen. It's always the way. But we should be wrapping it up by the end of the year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about other guitars that you own? I've seen you play several very nice electric guitars. You got a red Guild Starfire.
Yeah.
It's not that usual a guitar. You don't see many of them. I'm always intrigued when somebody has a sort of what I deem an unconventional guitar.
Yeah.
And you're like, what made you buy that? Because you've got the sort of 5 standards that everybody has, and then you see something, you think, oh, what's going on there? What is it?
Yeah.
So what spoke to you about that?
Honestly, it's the guitar that Feist plays.
Ah, okay.
And I just love her guitar playing so much. So there's no cool way around it. I was like, I want the guitar she's got, and if I get that guitar, I will then be her. No, but I love her electric playing in particular, and I got drunk and bought it on eBay.
Without even trying it or anything?
No, yeah, just bought it. It's a 1969 Guild Starfire, and there's a Bigsby added to it, which I think is not an original part. And it arrived. I was out in the States, and it arrived, and it was just great. As soon as I plugged it in, it was great, and I was like, oh, and it wasn't that expensive. So the being drunk is sort of not really a necessary part of the story, but I was.
I think
it's a good
might
way
have tipped you over the edge of.
But yeah, it's a good way to make a decision. I think being a little bit tipsy on eBay, because otherwise you just and you watch and I don't know, and oh fuck it, I'll just do it. And I played it ever since and played it on all the records and all the shows, and yeah, I really love it.
It's
really love it.
Amazing sounding thing.
Yeah, it's essentially a 335. It's that kind of guitar, and it's just got a lovely. That one in particular has got a really bassy bottom end, and because I use lots of open tunings and play a lot of finger picked stuff, it just seems to be really, really good for my style of playing. And
I've seen you. Is it a blonde 335?
Yeah.
Gibson?
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing.
Well, that's Justin Vernon's. It's not mine.
Oh, okay.
And I won't give it back to him unless he asks. So yeah, but that's a really nice guitar.
Now.
That's a really nice guitar, that one. But and again, yeah, that's got quite a good low end on it as well. But it's a bit more gnarly. But that one works really well distorted. I usually play that one not clean, but distorted. It's got a nice bite to it. But yeah, it's a lovely tone. I mean, it's a fucking great guitar.
It's massive as well, so you could wear a tiny vest with that, because it would cover. They're huge, aren't they? It would cover any meal that you had.
Yeah, that's true. Just a bra.
No one would know. Have you got any others?
What else have I got? Well, I've got a Hofner acoustic and a few Hofner electrics. They've been really generous to us over the years with their instruments. And actually, the Hofner acoustic was my first guitar that came with a pickup that I played at shows before I went and started sort of buying stuff. And they put me in Guitar Player magazine.
Wow.
When I was about 18, which is actually the highlight of my life. I don't think I've achieved anything more than that.
Oh, has it all been downhill since then?
I think so, yeah. It's the biggest achievement. If I was to make a CV, which I haven't really had, you don't really have to do it if you're in a band, I'd put that on my CV.
Didn't you meet Paul McCartney when you graduated?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's another high point up there.
Downhill since then?
Downhill since then.
What did he say? Great, you got a degree. That's
well,
my Paul McCartney impression, by the way.
I tell you what, there's a whole other story, and I'm loath to tell it in case I get in trouble, but I don't think I will. Or if I do, then fuck it. So it's to do with my uni.
Yeah.
And I don't actually know if they still do it, but when you do the music course, if you specialise in songwriting, we got to our third year, and there's a thing every year. He comes in and does a songwriting class.
What does he know?
It's like one-on-one.
Good God.
So that happened. So that actually was the best day of my life.
So, you played in Mexico?
Yeah, I did.
And what did he say?
He said he liked it. He said he thought it was really good, and he got his guitar out, and so he got his D28 out. He played along, and then he was asking me how I was playing it because it was in a tuning, and I was like, oh yeah, it's in open D, and like I was like, oh my god, am I giving him, like, am I educating him in like tuning and stuff, and there's a capo as well, and I'm like, oh right, okay, and he kind of jammed along, and then
Wow.
he said it was. He said he thought it was good, and he gave me some kind of tip to do something at the end. I can't remember quite what it was. I think I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, but he was saying to change the ending, and I didn't change it. I just left it as it was.
So you had a one-on-one with Paul McCartney. He gave you a tip, and you rejected his advice.
I know. But it was.
I mean, admire the conviction.
It was just. I just remember looking at his feet the whole time. And I couldn't look him in the eye because he's like my, God. I've been listening to his music my whole life and just I totally idolised him. So I think I was bright red, sweating, and looking at his little feet tapping along. And he was wearing New Balance trainers. He looked really fucking cool. And it just went by in 30 seconds to me. I think it was about 15 minutes or something that we were there for. It's fucking mental.
Magical, isn't it?
Mm.
That's wonderful.
And then he hands you the scroll when you graduate, the degree. And I was kind of like, does he remember me? And he said I thought he said hello again, but I don't know if he did. Again, such a blur. And there's just a really awkward picture of us posing.
Thumbs up. Was he?
No, he didn't. I don't think.
Fab Macca.
Did he? I don't think he did. But I just thought also what a cool thing to do. Because he's affiliated with the school, because it's in Liverpool and it's in the building he used to, the old art school. And that's great, and he's put a lot into making that place happen, and it's been going for 20 years or so. But you don't have to still do that. So he's doing it because he must get something out of it. I think with songwriting sometimes there's that kind of postponing it, and procrastinating a bit, which I'm really good at. And the poor guitar gets sort of left in the corner gathering dust a little bit, but it's always good when you do it. It's like going to the gym, which is a very soulless comparison, but you put it off, and when you go you feel so much better for doing it.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to be like, oh, I'll just go next week, and we know it, you haven't done it for months. And although I play guitar a lot more than I go to the gym.
Right.
And I'm also highly suspicious of very, very physically fit musicians. I just think it's weird. Spending too much time doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Musicians should be pale. They should be... No, I'm kidding. But someone who's very fit and healthy and gym and active seems too much of a happy person to be writing songs and being a musician, angst-ridden music. Yeah, what are you writing about?
What's the longest you've been on tour for?
That's a good question. Do you mean one single tour kind of with no break in between?
Yeah, I guess.
I can't really think. Probably 6 weeks or something.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah.
I just wonder what it's like when you just night after night playing an instrument.
Yeah.
How assured you must be, and how kind of slick things must be by the end of a tour.
Yeah.
When you're playing, can you consciously feel? Can you feel yourself getting better?
Definitely, and it's also it's muscle memory. You just get in a groove, and that's really how you do it. I think you just have to do it. You have to get out there and play, and then you become good, and then the kind of things that you had to learn and become second nature, and it is muscle memory. I mean, literally. We've been doing some shows this summer and they've all been quite spaced apart, which is always not ideal because you don't have that momentum of having been like a well-oiled machine. But you'd be surprised how easily you just don't really think about it because you're so kind of programmed from doing those night after night kind of tours over years. It does sink in.
What's your favourite song to play of yours?
Oh, that's a good question. What's a favourite song? I think Eagle Song, which is on the first album. I think that's one of my favourites. It's a funny thing to say, but I remember just being really overjoyed as I was writing it. It was a weird thing. I remember just being so it just brought me so much joy writing that song, and I feel that way every time I play it. I love it.
That's another thing of playing that I always think about. It sounds like I don't concentrate on gigs when I go to them because I'm always thinking about other stuff. But I do wonder about the sort of...
You weren't too busy worrying about the pickups and the guitars, aren't you, mate?
Where did she get that from? No. The repetition of doing something. So, Eagle's song, a song off the first album, would you say you played that 500 times live?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean... That one's it's fallen off.
Yeah,
off the
that's
set.
sort of not in the set anymore. But...
Yeah, for the last few years, but we played it a lot, during the first record, definitely. Maybe that's why that one came to mind now, because I haven't been playing it that much in the last few years. But yeah, certainly, I think you've got to be pretty amazing at your job to 100% love playing every single song every night, because it does get repetitive and it does get tiring, and it doesn't mean that it's rubbish, but it's hard to get back into each song, and especially actually when you're a more established band, as in with way more material. I mean, how do you go back 20 years or something to when I was writing this song and I was going through this? The identity of the song changes in itself by being played so much, and I guess that's kind of the great thing about songs, and that they mean something different to everyone else than what they mean to you, and then even the meaning to you changes over the years. I think that's kind of what keeps them alive, actually, is the playing and the replaying of them, rather than kind of playing them to death. But having said that, I've definitely had moments where I am kind of going through the motions with stuff, the muscle memory thing, because you're tired and you've been doing 5 shows in a row, and I always feel you shouldn't say that, but it is true. And you're amazing if you don't ever feel that way, but I think most people do.
I think you'd be lying if you didn't. Yeah, not every day in work is going to be good, is it?
No. No, and we're very lucky that we get to call that work, because it's a great thing to do, but it is work and it is a job, and sometimes I have to just make sure that I'm performing well to people who have paid to be there, and that's the most important thing. And often you're wrapped up in like the mechanics of what you're doing, thinking about chords and shapes and pedals and not tripping over wires, and have I got hair in my face and whatever, and should not have had that curry before the gig and all those things, and before you know it, a song has passed and been and gone, and you didn't emotionally get to the very central core of it. But other times you do, and that's kind of the magic of it, I think.
So finish up, dream guitar?
Dream guitar, oof. I feel like I've gone through phases with idolising guitars and borrowing guitars from people where I'm like, oh my god, I've got to get that guitar. I think I really love playing Les Pauls, but I'm trying to think of what specific Les Paul would be the one. I don't know, just a fucking great 70s Les Paul. But I don't really play them because of my Bach.
They're so heavy.
Too bloody heavy.
Yeah.
They're not really designed. I was going to say they're not designed for women, but they're not really designed for anyone. They're just
hod carriers. That's about it.
But I mean, yeah, that's my dream. That's my next guitar. I think I'm going to get, but can't really tour with it. I did a tour with one, and it fucked my back. It really did. My shoulders. That one, and there must be so many. You put me on the spot.
Sorry.
There must be so many. Neil Young's Gretsch. The got the black one, and there's a white one as well.
Oh, the big white Falcon, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're very light either. They're the size of a small car as well. They're giant.
But are they hollow? I think.
I suppose they are.
Be a bit lighter. That's all I can think of right now. I'm just looking at Lord of the Rings on your video on your DVD shelf. What guitar would Gandalf play?
I don't know. It would be
like a Rickenbacker.
What would it be? I think it would be something with an extremely long neck on it, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah.
It looked a bit like a staff, or maybe it'd be one of those the Steinbergers, like the headless thing, because it's like.
I think Aragorn would be a Les Paul, and I think Boromir would be a Telly.
Okay.
And I think
Legolas would be a white Strat.
A Strat. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Legolas would be a Strat.
And Gimli.
I think go back to Yeah, pretty rocky. Yeah, because he's got that kind of like Scandi rock look, hasn't he? That sort of
Maybe
metally.
you just get an axe turned into a guitar.
Yeah, custom made.
Yeah.
Total custom made. And the Hobbits, maybe they'd all be on like kind of
Ukuleles.
and ukuleles.
I think they'd be a very acoustic, wouldn't they? Or they'd just have like the baron, the Irish drums and stuff. It'd be like a Celtic band.
Yeah. So folky. So lots of D28s and stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad we got that sorted.
Yeah, great. Done. Sorted.
Thank you very much, Jess. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
So there we have episode 2 of Star Guitar with Jess Staveley-Taylor. I hope you enjoyed it. I should probably say that there was going to be a little bit more guitar playing, but when Jess sat down with the guitar, I think she was a bit worried that she was going to come over like David Brent in that scene from The Office, you know, where he makes Gareth go and get his guitar for him. And, well, fair play, nobody wants that, do they? If you did like the episode, please leave a rating or a comment on wherever you got the podcast from, and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps the podcast grow. Thanks very much to Jess for talking to me. If you want to keep tabs on the Staves, go to thestaves.com and have a look at any upcoming news there. Also, check out YouTube for some of the brilliant live sessions that they've done. If you'd like to see any of the guitars that we're talking about, go to Star Guitar Podcast on Instagram, where you can see some lovely photos that Jess has sent me. You can also email me if you've got anything to say at starguitarpodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch on Twitter too at starguitarpod. There'll be another episode next week, so until then, bye-bye.